Good morning, teachers. Today I want to upload the third part of the Production Possibility Frontier video series. This is something that's going to cover some information that I like to put in Unit 1, even though it's not in Modules 1 through 4. It's very briefly covered, but if you look in the scope and sequence for the unit, you'll find that there are some additional pages from later modules. I think it's Module 29, and that this is a piece of information that I think fits in better here than where the book puts it, so we're going to go ahead and cover it here. I highly recommend you do this as well. So we're going to use the Production Possibility Frontier today to talk about growth, investment, and capital formation, which are really important concepts. Should be a pretty short video, so I'm going to try and get through this as quickly as possible, but if you want some additional information on that, this is the video for you. So the first thing we see here is we're trying to create economic growth, and we're trying to show what economic growth looks like on the Production Possibility Frontier. And just so we're on the same page, we're defining economic growth as an increase in the economy's potential productivity. That doesn't mean your actual productivity is necessarily going up, but your potential to produce is. Now, on the AP exam, there's three different ways that an increase in potential productivity can possibly look, and I have them labeled here for you as A, B, or C. For level A, if you have an overall increase in productivity across the economy, so your workers become more productive or something, you'll see an increase in the potential to produce both of your products. This isn't always the case, but this is the most common way the AP exam shows growth on the production possibility frontier. However, that's not the only way they can do it. For part B, you're seeing an increase only in the potential productivity for one product. So this would be, for example, if there was a change in technology that was specific to the production of one product but didn't apply to the other, this would increase only the productivity along your x-axis, and C would be the opposite. This would be if there was a change that only increased productivity along your y-axis. So these are the three different ways the AP exam will show economic growth happening on the production possibility frontier. If potential productivity is growing across the board, you have the kids draw A. If it only affects the product on the x-axis, you have the kids draw B. And if it only affects the product on the y-axis, you have the kids draw C. So once the kids know what economic growth looks like on the production possibility frontier, they can chart it out for themselves. The next question we attempt to answer is, okay, so how do we achieve this economic growth? We know that growth is good. We want to be able to increase real GDP per capita. We want to be able to increase quality of life for our economy. So the question is, what do we have to do in order to accomplish this growth along the production possibilities frontier? So there's essentially three things that can cause these shifts to occur. There can be a change in the quantity of available resources, where your economy finds new resources available to it that didn't used to be available before. You can have an increase in the quality of available resources, so a change in quality, meaning that you find resources that are better suited for producing whatever these products happen to be than the resources you were using. And last but not least, and probably the most common one, you can have changes in technology, especially productive technology, that makes production of one or both products more efficient. So there's essentially three ways you get growth in this economy: change in the quality of resources, change in the quantity of resources, and changes in technology. So the logical next question after we know what causes economic growth is, what can we do in the economy to actually make this growth happen? So how can we increase quality, quantity of resources, and how can we increase available technology? The answer has to do with investment. So investment is what drives long-term economic growth. You're going to have to stop here and go into investment with the kids, because investment in AP macroeconomics means something different than what the kids presume investment means. If you ask a kid what it means to invest, they're going to tell you that it's putting money in the bank, or buying stocks and bonds, or holding money in a savings account or a treasury account or something like that. And those things are absolutely not investment from an AP macroeconomics standpoint. Those things are savings. So you're going to need to differentiate investment in capital from savings. So in eco, what we consider investment is going to be anything that basically is an outlay of resources dedicated to future productivity. So if I'm spending money to buy a hammer so that I can use the hammer to build houses, that hammer is going to be an investment because it's going to be the capital I use to produce more products in the future. So we have to differentiate investment in the economic sense from saving for the kids. So if we assume that investment then is an outlay of resources to help you with future productivity, there's essentially three things that we look for in investment to grow the production possibilities frontier. Those things are investment in physical capital, investment in human capital, and investment in research and development. And these things together are what are going to cause your changes in the quantity of resources, quality of resources, and technology. So physical capital is by far the most common one to show up on the AP exam. This is an outlay on essentially manufactured goods that are used to produce other manufactured goods. So our hammer example from earlier, a robot that makes Toyota Tundras, or a factory, or a pizza oven. These are all going to be pieces of physical capital. You know it's physical capital because you're purchasing it not because you want the product itself, but because it helps you make something you want. I don't buy a pizza oven because I really want pizza ovens. I buy a pizza oven because it's the natural way for me to go out making pizza, and pizza is the product that I actually want. So physical capital, manufactured goods that are used to produce other manufactured goods, usually with increased efficiency. Human capital is very similar to that. This is going to be an investment in skills and training for your workers that's going to allow them to more efficiently produce a product. So especially if you're hiring skilled labor, not all people are going to come onto the job with the skills required to do things, and you're going to want to train them to be more efficient. That training is going to cost you money, right? So as teachers, we know what that's like. We go to training all the time in professional development. The goal is the school district is spending money on us to make us more effective at our jobs. This is an investment in human capital. So basically just the exact same thing as physical capital, except it's skills instead of a physical product. Last but not least, we have the one that increases technology, and that would be investment in research and development. This is going to be when companies spend money on advancing new technologies or coming up with newer and better ways to produce their products that are hopefully more efficient and cost them less money. Together, all of these things are what are going to cause your shifts in the production possibility frontier. Generally, if it's a change in technology, it's the result of R&D. If it's a change in the quantity or quality of resources, those usually come up as a change in either physical or human capital, or both. So last but not least for this lesson, our investments in physical capital, human capital, and research development essentially build up over time. So all of the investments we make today are going to be affecting us years down the line. This is a phenomenon known as capital formation. So over many, many years, you'll build up a stable of physical capital. Hopefully you're holding on to your employees, and you'll have developed human capital, and you'll have additional research and development, which leads to the accumulation of capital over time, minus depreciation. So some of these things, especially machines, are going to break down over time. So we're going to subtract those out. And that this capital formation over the long term is what leads to long-term economic growth and what causes the production possibilities frontier to shift. So provided that you take care of your physical capital and you fix it and avoid depreciation, you take care of your human capital and make sure that you're not losing these skilled workers, and you engage in enough research and development, you should have long-term growth. So essentially, what the whole point of all this is that our growth rates today are in a lot of ways dependent on the investments we made in the past. So the United States to this day is still benefiting off of our investments in the interstate highway system. We're still benefiting on our investments in infrastructure, things like bridges and roads. But also businesses also invest, and they benefit in the long term from these investments as well. So Toyota built a Tundra factory on the south side, and that Tundra factory is going to continue to produce Tundras and continue to provide them with income for many, many years in the future. This is why, especially when it comes to very labor-intensive or labor-heavy industries, it's particularly important that you protect your human capital. Just last week, Walmart offered all of their employees $1 increase in wages. And while sure, Walmart might be offering them an increase in wages because they're being nice, what they're really doing is they did the numbers and they found out that paying all their employees an additional $1 actually cost them less than it would to pay them $1 fewer. And the reason for that is because some of the reason their employees were leaving was they were going to higher paying jobs, and that if you can hold on to your employees for longer, you can benefit from your investments in their human capital for longer, and you don't have to train quite as many employees, and you don't have as high of turnover. So it's important to protect your capital. You keep your physical capital up, you maintain your employees, you don't allow them to leave, and you engage in research and development, and these three things together will lead to increases in long-term productivity. It's not just what you do today, but that matters, but in a lot of ways what you did yesterday and the day before that affects what your productivity is going to be.